frequency of love. Oh yeah. Ascending with our mother.
I want to quote one of my favorite lines from one of my favorite shows. When you're dead, but you're never quite so dead if you contribute something. All right, I'm the guy in Castle Rock, Colorado, that when I got pulled over about a year ago, I'm the one that said, officer, I understand your position in this. However, under the advice of counsel, I've been instructed not to answer any questions pursuant to Salinas versus Texas. I'm immediately required to raise Fifth Amendment protections. Sent that up to Lackluster. Lackluster edited it, put it up on his channel, and we've gotten over 2,800,000 views. The comments to the main channel video, there are an enormous number of people out there that wanted me to put up a video channel on YouTube. And so this is my first one out the door. And of course, as I become more comfortable in front of the camera and I get my roll on, as it were, I'm pretty tough to shut up. All right, so one of the first things that I really want to talk about is the nature of what the law is. The greatest majority of people have absolutely no idea what it is that they're looking at when they look at the law. It moves at a very fundamental level into what's malum prohibitum and malum in se. All right, malum in se are intrinsic evils. All right, rape, robbery, burglary, murder, arson, this kind of, everywhere in the world, murder is illegal. It's an intrinsic evil. All right. Malum prohibitum, on the other hand, is it's illegal because we say it's illegal. Drug laws are a good example, speeding, and so on. People do not simply understand the nature of how the law works. In this video, I need to touch on it. I've only got 15 minutes because YouTube limits new channels to 15 minutes until they get verified, and you get so many people signed up, and then you can go longer than that. All right, malum prohibitum and malum in se. We're born free, but we lose our liberty through contract. And that's probably the single most difficult thing for people to understand. Let's move towards motor vehicles and the right to liberty and the right to travel that the Patriot community, for example, is real big about. They have a really big misunderstanding as how all of this works. First off, you don't own your car. You can't own your car. There's nothing you can do to ever own your car. All you get is the beneficial interest to the use of that car. Just like real property. When you buy your house, if you pay cash for that house, you don't own that house. You get the beneficial interest in the severed surface estate. If you don't pay your property taxes, you otherwise run afoul of the law. Zoning is a good example of that. Says they will come and take your property, either foreclose on it, a board of county commissioners can do that, or they can take it in eminent domain so they can build a highway over it. Happens all the time. You don't own your property. You can never own your property. I can't speak to other states, but in the state of Colorado, if you read the Colorado Constitution, what you find is that when the state entered the Union, it reserved all of the rights to all of the land, absent, of course, anything that's been ceded over to the federal government. Indian land, of course, is separate from that. But everything else other than that, is all of the mineral rights, water rights, everything except the severed surface estate, the use of the beneficial interest, the use of the severed surface estate has been reserved to the state of Colorado. And then they chop it up into counties and municipalities. All right? So just in as much as you lose you've never had a right to own real property in the United States, other than through land patent and a few other things, you don't own your car. When a car is manufactured, it moves in interstate commerce, right? It moves in interstate commerce. And when the car is sold, or I should say delivered to a dealership, that dealership is a corporation. What is that contract? It's a creature of the state. Hale versus Hinkle. All corporations are creatures of the state, right? They're agents for the state. They have to do what the state tells them to do, right? So what happens is the vehicle comes from the manufacturer, it goes to the dealership, you go to the dealership, you buy the car brand new, and the manufacturer's certificate of origin is sent to the state. And you get a certificate of title. A certificate of title is not the same as title. You become not the owner, but you become the registered owner. You're driving the state's car on the state's roads, which is why you have to put a license plate on the back of the vehicle. The state can only tax that which they own. right? You have to pay a tax on your property every year. Why? Well, because they own your property. You're getting the beneficial use of it. This is the police and fire and water districts, all these other things. They put the mill levies in for school districts and fire protection districts and so on. So what happens is that when you drive your car, you think you bought your car, you're driving down the car, you have a contract with the state. It's an adhesion contract. It's an implied contract. You're driving the state's car on the state's roads, and you got to have a license plate on the back. Now, the particular case that I was charged with was expired tags. But it's not expired tags. 423114, if you actually read the statute, and you have to go read the Colorado regulations on it, what you'll find is that particular statute is meant for, it's only applicable against the owner of the vehicle, right? And the way the phrasing of the statute is written is that if you're driving down the street and you have an expired registration, and somebody puts fake tabs on the back of the plate to make it look as though your registration is current, and the registration dates are not the same as the registration tabs that are on the back, year and month, that are on the back of the license plate, that's what 423114 is all about, right? And so when they pull me over for it, I deliberately drive with expired tags. Why? Well, because I'm setting them up for lawsuits, right? You send in what's called a 182-day notice. Here you go. You go to trial. You got to do the notice first. Do the 182-day notice that they pulled you over, what your defense is, what they did wrong. And if the prosecution still moves forward, even when they're under notice, that becomes malicious prosecution in the state of Colorado. And these dumb prosecutors don't bother to read anything. They don't understand. They don't even know how to read the law. It's really rather pathetic. The students that are coming out of law schools today, I call it snippet lawyering. What happens is that they learn LexisNexis Westlaw online. They don't read the treatises. Back when I was there, back in 1990 to 1993, there was like a 4-volume set of what's called Lefebvre Search and Seizures. Lefebvre Search and Seizures is the learned treatise on search and seizure. Today, I think it's like 6 volumes. DU has been closed for the last 2 years to the public. Even attorneys can't get in. If you're not faculty, staff, or student, you can't get into DU Law School. University of Denver Law School. So I haven't had a chance to look at the stacks in quite a while, in over 2 years. But I think the last time it was there it was 6 volumes. So when I was there, it was 4 volumes. And you take contracts and torts and civil procedure and criminal procedure and evidence. You take all this kind of stuff. And then, of course, you take all these other adjunct professors teach things like remedies, for example. And I took remedies and these other courses because that's what you do. You do your 1L, your 2L stuff, and your 3L stuff. Some people go toward like their LLM for their master's in tax, or they become a bankruptcy attorney, so they take a course in bankruptcy. Everybody takes wills, trusts, estates anyways, but you can do bankruptcies and all these other kinds of things. So anyway, so back to what I'm getting on about contracts. Every time something doesn't make sense, you need to ask yourself, is there a contract that I've entered into that I don't know that I've entered into it? All right, you have to have offer, acceptance, valuable consideration, performance, and time. Now, I'm not talking about defenses because you have capacity and you've got illegal contracts. Prostitution, for example, is an illegal contract. But I'm not talking about defenses. The fundamental elements of a contract are offer and acceptance. Hey, do you want to buy an apple? Yeah, I'd love to buy an apple. Says, there you go. Says, well, how much do you want for the apple? Well, I want 25 cents for the apple. So here's the apple, and here's my 25 cents. That's valuable consideration by both parties. Performance, in this case, it's performance, and then there's time involved. And this is one of the examples they give is hey, Bill, I'll pay you $100 to be able to cross this bridge. So this is, and halfway across the bridge, you rescind your offer. Well, you can't do that because you have to give them enough time to be able to actually complete the project. Now there are once again, there are exceptions to the rule where you could have partial performance on a contract. So if he finished crossing half the bridge, your initial offer was $100. Says if you give him $50, says here you go, it's not a problem. There's also what are called constructive breaches. There's several other issues. Right now, I'm not going to give you a course on contract law. But the issue is that every time something doesn't make any sense, you have to sit down and you say, all right, where is the contract? And I'll tell you, there's those adhesion contracts, those hidden contracts are absolutely everywhere. All right? Currently, as of today, I read in Wikipedia, someplace, one of the feeds on my phone, there's a case that's come out of the Ninth Circuit. It was like Rosebud versus California. So it was U.S. versus Rose Nose, or whatever his name was. It's a brand new case. I don't have it committed to memory, but I've got the elements down. What happened was, it was a Yahoo account that the police had gotten wind of, and they put a preservation order on his account. And it was a Fourth Amendment search and seizure case. And the Ninth Circuit, after having already gone to the Supreme Court and then being sent back down, ruled a second time that because the terms of service said that this preservation order could go into place, that it wasn't an unlawful taking or unlawful seizure, because it didn't interrupt his use of his materials. That the court, and trust me when I say this, most judges are complete idiots. They have absolutely no idea what they're doing. It's very easy to run circles around judges. Federal district judges get reversed by the individual circuit courts of appeal all the time. Trial court judges, district court judges at the trial court level get reversed by the Court of Appeals all the time. The Court of Appeals in Colorado gets reversed, I think it's 68% of the time, for those cases that go up to the Colorado Supreme Court, get reversed, I think it's 68% of the time. So these courts are, by definition, incompetent. One of the things that people don't know about with respect to Colorado Court of Appeals, I can't speak to other states, is that there's 22 judges on the Court of Appeals, and then they randomly assign 3 judges. Well, what happens is that those 3 judges rule on a particular issue. They rule on a particular issue, but that isn't mandatory authority against any other 3-judge division of the circuit of the appellate court. Right? So you can look at a Court of Appeals, in this case, Colorado Court of Appeals ruling, and you think that it's mandatory authority. It is against the district court and county court and municipal courts, but it's not mandatory against another division. A permutation of the 22 judges in the Colorado Court of Appeals. All right, so let's get back to the case out of California. So what you have is that the terms of service. That's absolutely correct. The court was correct in this. What did the guy do? He waived his Fourth Amendment rights to privacy through contract. Right? Says oftentimes people don't understand this nonsense about locking down the country for the scamdemic, and trust me, it was a scamdemic. On this COVID. Where did the Colorado state governor get the authority to be able to lock down the state? Well, from a constitutional perspective, he does and he doesn't have that authority. What did he do? Says he's the executive, and the executive branch of government has always had the authority to be able to control what? Business, commerce, trade, and industry. And those are defined at law. All right, so your average retail business, all right? Commerce moves in interstate commerce, all right? Trade is international trade, and then you have industry. In industry, the big 5 industries, which is lumber, mining, power, communications, and there's another one in there. Anyway, so it says the police powers of the state have always been able to control business, commerce, trade, and industry. And because the executive is telling corporations who are agents of the state, and those agents are anybody licensed thereunder. So if you've got a retail license, or a healthcare license, for example, you're a coffee shop, or you're a Waffle House, or you're whatever it is, says, and you've got that healthcare license, you have derived a benefit from government. And therefore you owe a duty to government. And what people don't know is, well, what's the benefit? The benefit is the bankruptcy laws. The benefit are the bankruptcy laws. What happens is that you go to the state and you say, hey, I want to be an LLC. I want to be a subchapter S. I want to be a Class C corporation. I want to be a limited partnership. I want to be a whatever. The intent therein is, the implied intent there is that you want to be able to sequester your personal assets from your corporate liabilities. That's what you're doing when you create a corporation. Right? A subchapter S or limited partnership. You're saying, hey, I want to be this vehicle, as we say, a vehicle of corporate commerce, right? Whether it's a subchapter S or an LLC or whatever, limited liability corporation. So, and what happens is that you've derived the benefit of the bankruptcy code, because if your business goes broke, your trust fund monies and your real estate and your cars and that you own as an individual, right, are not at threat. You can't, well, unless there's fraud involved. Normally you can't pierce the corporate the corporate veil. You can't do that. So what happens is that you've gone to government for a benefit, which is to be a corporation, and then therefore you owe duty to government because you're acting as an agent for government. And because you act as an agent for government, as an artificial entity, you're a creature of government, you owe duty to file your goddamn tax returns as a corporation, not necessarily as an individual. That's a completely different argument. But as a corporation, LLC, subchapter or otherwise, says when you derive benefit from government, you owe a duty to government, and that duty is as an agent, because they're the principal, and as an agent, you owe a duty to be able to follow his returns. What people don't understand is, like I've said, and I need to drill this into people in these first couple of videos that I do, more likely than not, what you're going to end up with is I'm going to harp on you about this contract nexus, the contractual nexus between the individual and the state, and this is how it is that people lose their liberty. They engage in commerce, business, trade, and industry, and they sign contracts they do not understand, terms of service agreements online, and so on, and this is how it is that you lose oftentimes you can lose your livelihood, you can lose your freedom. I don't know anything about how to fix a car. I don't know anything about how to open heart surgery or how to build a house or lay asphalt or a slew of number of things. You can only know so much in this world. But I can tell you that the only thing that matters is the law. And the average person doesn't take the time to read any law. I get it. They're busy. They're paying their bills, raising their kids, get up, go to work, come home, go to sleep. They get older, they raise their grandkids, they die. I get it. A lot of people have no interest in learning the law. But the law is the only thing that can take your shit and put your ass in prison. And if you get pulled over for some meaningless little thing and you're running afoul of the law in some meaningful way, these cops are trained to go out of their way to escalate, to get you pissed off, to get you to open up and say things that you shouldn't otherwise say, so they have what's called reasonable articulable suspicion with exigent circumstances to raise a level of probable cause, and or you flat out give them permission like an idiot so that they can do a bumper-to-bumper search of the vehicle. They'll ask you, is there anything in the car that shouldn't be there? In those states that still have marijuana is illegal. I've got a joint in the glove compartment or something. Well, you just gave them permission, in this case probable cause, to be able to search the whole vehicle. And who knows what other kind of stuff they may find, because you could be driving somebody else's car. You don't know what's in that vehicle. So that's the first, I don't know how long I've been talking, but there we go. The first tidbit as to what it is that you need to understand about how the law works and why contracts that you don't understand, they're called adhesion contracts. Adhesion contracts deprive you of your liberty.
Ascending with our mother, our families are our friends. Connecting with our source within, the love that never ends. The path of utopia is the frequency of love.